Okay. Well, I think first of all, Alexis, we're ready to get out of Dodge. We've been stuck in Dodge now for 10 months. And I think the idea of getting a change of scenery, of being able to relax and de-stress and just get away from where we've been stuck for the last 10 months is so appealing to us now. I know for myself, I've had to cancel 3 vacations in the past 10 months. And I'm sure, there are other people who have similar stories as well. I know many of my clients have canceled and booked and rebooked and canceled again. So we're all ready to get out of here. But of course, the pandemic has taught us that we need to be prepared. And we need to be prepared for the worst so that it doesn't happen to us. And one of the first things we need to know is that people are booking, but they're booking for the latter half of this year. That's when they're planning to travel, or into next year. I even had clients this year who have booked cruises for 2023, which is highly unusual under normal circumstances. But if that's when you feel comfortable traveling, then that's when you should be planning to travel. And we are able to book that far ahead. But also, very, very important now is that you insure your travel investment with trip insurance. If you've never used trip insurance before, this is the time. This is what we have learned. Because you have homeowners insurance, you have auto insurance, and you also want to insure every investment you've made, and that includes your vacation investment. So you need to talk to someone who's knowledgeable about travel insurance, because there are many different companies offering it, and there are many different levels of insurance that each company has to offer. So you need to know who to contact, and I'm going to put a plug in here for travel agents, because that's what we do. We are able to give you information about the types of insurance so that you're sure you're getting the insurance you want and need. There are basically 3 types of insurance coverages. There's an insurance that will provide you with future travel credit if you have to cancel your trip once you've booked it. Because normally, once you've put money down on a trip, if you have to cancel, you stand to lose some of that money. And the closer it gets to the day of departure, the more money you're going to lose. The travel suppliers are not going to give you your money back if you have to cancel your cruise 2 days before the ship sails. So you have to be prepared with insurance. And some insurances, usually the most economical, will give you future credit toward another trip. You're not going to get your money back if you have to cancel, but at least you can move the money that you've paid into another vacation. The second type of insurance is insurance that will cover you for covered reasons. Now, covered reasons may be illness, injury, not only to you, a passenger, but also including immediate family members, or maybe a death in the family, or perhaps your home has been rendered uninhabitable by fire or flood. You're not going to take a vacation 3 days after your kitchen has just exploded. So these are covered reasons. And if you have to cancel a trip for one of these reasons, you can then file a claim with the insurance company for reimbursement from the money that you're losing from the travel supplier. The third basic kind of insurance that you can get is cancel for any reason. And I put any in air quotes because there are often exceptions, even to cancel for any reason insurance. And you need to be aware of these if you are purchasing cancel for any reason insurance. For instance, acts of war are probably not going to be covered. Acts of God may not be covered. And in some cases, even pandemics may not be covered. So again, talk to your knowledgeable travel agent to find out the ins and outs of the policies that you're looking at and match up the one that's going to meet your needs. That's probably the best bit of information I can give you at this point for traveling during the age of COVID or immediately after the age of COVID. Other things that are important for you to know: you need to research your destination. Know where you're going and what's happening there. And this is changing constantly. Every day we're getting new information about certain islands that now may be requiring you to have a COVID test within 72 hours before you arrive. You can still enjoy a wonderful vacation on the beach, but you need to make sure that you've had that requirement met before you step off the plane to enjoy your beach. Some destinations are offering you COVID insurance for a small fee. Once you step off the plane, you have arrived at the destination. There's a little desk there. Would you like to purchase COVID insurance for $40 in case you become ill while you're here? That might be a great idea. It might be $40 well spent, but you need to know if that's something that's available where you're going. Other destinations require you to show proof that you have medical insurance before you are able to set foot in their country. And
Can I ask
will,
you real
yes.
quick regarding that particular note, excuse me. Now I'm American, I have insurance in America, but I'm going to Mexico. What's that?
And that was going to be my next point, because the chances are the insurance that you have here is not going to do much for you once you're out of the 50 states. So again, insurance being very, very important. That trip cancellation insurance may also include medical coverage. And that's an important thing to have if you are leaving the United States, because sometimes it may cover a visit to an emergency room. Well, what if I need more? What if I need hospitalization? My insurance isn't going to cover that. So to have a supplemental insurance policy for medical coverages is also very important once you are leaving the United States. So that's a very good point.
And would that be through the same path as the travel insurance, or would you contact your health insurance for?
No, travel insurance is usually, or often, I'm going to say, not usually anymore. Things have changed so much in the last 10 months, but very often it's a package that includes the trip cancellation coverage and medical insurance. It may also cover baggage damage or loss. There's even a type of insurance that covers missed cruise ports. So if your ship was supposed to call at a certain island, but for some reason they weren't able to on that particular day, you can file a claim with the insurance company to get $200 back because your ship missed a port of call. So there are a lot of different things that are included in these trip insurance packages. And again, the more you pay, the more you get. So you're going to get these, extra little bonuses with the more expensive insurance policies normally.
Okay, I understand. Fascinating. Okay.
Now, something else you want to know, you want to make sure you have when you travel is proper documentation. That's extremely important. And I always recommend that anyone who is traveling outside of the 50 United States travel with a passport, and a passport book, not just a passport card. The passport book is the booklet that has about 15 pages in it. And the reason for that, we sometimes get people who come and say, well, I'm going to take a cruise from Baltimore to Bermuda. It's only 5 days. I know I don't need a passport. I can get by with my birth certificate and my photo ID. Yes, you can legally do that. If your ship is leaving from and returning to the United States, you do not need a passport. However, let's say you've gotten to Bermuda. It's a beautiful day in Bermuda. You're renting a bicycle, you're riding down the bicycle path, the rails to trail path, and whoops, you hit a stone, the bicycle's thrown away, over the side it goes, it's mangled, and you have a gash in your leg. It's bleeding profusely. You've got to go to the hospital, you've got to get stitches. Okay, you're at the hospital, they've sewn you up, they've given you a clean bill of health. Off you go back to your ship. But your ship isn't there. It has sailed. It's now 7 o'clock and the ship left at 6. And they don't turn around and come back. So now you're stuck in Bermuda. What are you going to do? Well, you can get a plane, fly home. Nope, you can't, because you don't have a passport. And a passport is required to fly from a foreign country into the United States. And that's why we always recommend that you travel with a passport anytime you leave the 50 states. So don't be penny pound foolish and try to save a penny. Get a passport if you are planning to travel. It's just not worth the risk. Another tip I have for you is, yes, I'm sorry.
Just one question regarding the passport. What about
Yes.
a big topic of conversation is the IDs?
Passport card.
No, the
Oh, real ID.
real ID.
Real
Thank you.
ID.
Thank you for jogging
Okay.
my memory. Is that
Okay.
still, you would still, even someone who has a real ID, you encourage them to get a passport?
The real ID is only going to help you for flights within the United States. You're going to need a real ID as of October of this year. You are going to need a real ID to board a plane, period, if you are traveling within the United States. Yes.
Okay. But in your example of being stranded in Bermuda, the passport is what you need. The
Yes, a
real
real
ID is,
ID is not going to help you get out of Bermuda.
okay.
No. It'll
Got
help
it.
you get to Florida, but it won't help you any further than that.
Got it. Loud and clear.
Another thing I love to talk to people about is foreign currency exchange, because if you are traveling to a foreign country, you need to know about the currency that you're going to need to have. You cannot pay for a cup of coffee in Paris with US dollars. They will not accept it. So if you are going to be traveling to Paris or almost anywhere else in the world, you're probably going to need to change money and have the currency of that country in your pocket when you arrive. And I always do advise people to have at least $100 worth of money in the local currency in their pockets when they step off the plane, in small bills. You may need that for tips, you might need it for taxi, you might want to buy a bottle of water at the airport, and these are the kinds of things that you need that money for. You're not going to carry $1,000 in cash with you. That would be foolish. And of course, traveler's checks, if you're old enough to remember them, they no longer exist. Nobody takes traveler's checks anymore. So you need to have some foreign currency on you in a small amount. How do you do that? Well, you can go to a bank or a AAA office and you can get some foreign currency in advance. And I do advise you to do that. But what happens if you run out while you're abroad? Well, there's this wonderful invention called an ATM machine. And ATM machines are everywhere in the world and they operate the same way. You put a card in and you get money out. So you have an ATM card, I assume, a debit card. Most of us have one. We can use it in Paris or in Sydney, Australia, or in New Delhi the same way that we use it here. Put the card in and get the local currency out. Now, there is a drawback to that, however. If that card would be lost or stolen, it is attached to our bank accounts. And so someone might have the opportunity to access our bank account information. So there is a second way that you can get currency as you need it, and that is a prepaid money card. And AAA does have a Visa Travel prepaid money card that you can get at a AAA office. It works the same way as an ATM card, but it's not attached to your bank account. You load it with a certain number of currency, a certain amount of dollars that you choose, and then that's what you can get out as you're traveling, as you need to get it out. If you run out along the way, it can be electronically reloaded. So it's safer than the ATM card that you're carrying. But either way, you can get foreign currency as you go along. That said, the best way to make purchases when you are outside of the United States is with your credit card. And Visa and MasterCard are the most widely accepted worldwide, so if you're carrying them, you're probably fine. I also advise you to carry 2 cards from 2 different accounts. Because if one card should be lost or stolen, you have a backup card, and you always want to make sure that you do. However, don't carry 10 cards. That's ridiculous, and you're only asking for trouble if you're carrying a wad of cards, just like you're asking for trouble if you're carrying a wad of cash. But make sure you notify the banks ahead of time that you're taking the cards with you. Same with the ATM card. Make sure that you notify the ATM's bank that you're taking that card with you out of the country. Otherwise, if the credit card company suddenly starts to see charges coming in from China or from New Zealand and they don't know that you were there, they're liable to freeze the account because they will think that they're fraudulent charges. So notify your banks. The other advantages of using credit cards is you don't have to mesh with cash. You don't have to try to figure out how much you're spending in a foreign currency and how much change you should be getting back. And am I being cheated? You just charge the card. You charge it in euros. When you get the statement, it's going to be converted to dollars. So you'll know exactly how much to pay. And the bank has done that conversion for you. So you're not having to mess with currency exchange rates that change on a daily basis. And they're getting a better exchange rate than you as an individual would be getting. Now, there's one tip too that I want everybody to pay attention to because this is important. Very often when you make a purchase abroad, whether it be a store or a restaurant or any other retail facility, they may ask you, do you want me to charge that in local currency or in US dollars? And you may think, oh, they'll charge it in US dollars. How convenient for me. I'll know exactly right now how much I'm paying for it. No, don't do it because they are using their currency exchange rate, which is favorable to them, not to you. So you're going to end up paying more if you have them charge you in US dollars than you would be paying if they were charging you in local currency. So use those credit cards, use them often, use them for as many purchases as you can, except for the bottle of water, or of course tips you always need foreign currency for. But let the credit card bank make those currency exchange rates for you. Another tip I have for you, and this is a question that often comes up from people, what about my medications? How should I be carrying my medications when I'm traveling abroad? The ideal way would be to keep them in the original bottles with the original prescription on the outside. But if you have 10 different medications, that can be cumbersome. It isn't absolutely necessary for you to carry the original bottles. But I do suggest if you're not carrying the original bottles, carry copies of the prescriptions. And this is just in case any of your medications, especially any that are life-saving, are lost along the way. And that has happened to me. Somewhere in South Africa, there's a monkey who's not going to get malaria. So from my firsthand experience, I can tell you that you want to make sure that you are able to reproduce any life-saving medications that you need to have. But it is not necessary to keep them in the original containers.
Is that strictly a safety precaution for your own health, or do you ever find that perhaps people would get stopped and questioned because of certain drugs in their packages?
You probably wouldn't be traveling in a country that would do that.
Okay.
Okay. Any country that we normally are thinking of traveling to, you would be fine.
Okay.
You would be fine. But it's always a good idea to be able to prove this is the medication I'm taking, here's the prescription for it, just in case there would be any question along the line, or if you would need to get it refilled.
Gotcha.
And always, when you're carrying medications with you on a trip, take more than you think you're going to need. If you're going to be gone 10 days, don't just take 10 days worth of medications. Take 15, because you never know what delays may happen. And if you need the life-saving medication and you've run out of it, and you don't know if you're going to be there, 3 or 4 more days stuck where you are, that can be a harrowing experience for you. So always take more than you need.
Okay.
And the final tip I have for you, again, this is something that I am often asked about. How should I pack? What kind of clothes should I take? My answer to that is always pack less than you think you need. In this day and age, we have to pay for our suitcases now on the flights. Get to the airport, you hand over $30, $40 each way for your checked luggage. So you want to pack lightly. Plan your wardrobe. Don't just throw clothes in your suitcase the night before the trip. Plan it out ahead of time. Research the climate, first of all. Know what kind of climate you're getting into. How many days of precipitation do they have? What's the average high temperature, the average low temperature? And also think neutral colors that you can mix and match and wear several times. And maybe you can have an item that does double duty. You know, can your coat also be used as a bathrobe? Can your shoes also be used as bedroom slippers? Maybe I don't need to take a bathrobe. Maybe I don't need to take bedroom slippers. If I'm going to a tropical destination, do I need to take my own beach towels or do they supply them at the resort? These are things you need to know ahead of time so that you can pack as lightly as possible. I also want to tell you something that you may laugh about. This is something I have been doing for decades. It's not my original idea, I borrowed it. But it's once I discovered this incredibly wonderful experience, I've been doing it on every single trip I take. And that is what I call throwaway clothes. So throughout the year, as I am finding clothes in my closet that I no longer need to keep, maybe they're a little small, maybe they've faded a bit, maybe they're just out of style, I have a pile that I will put them on. I'm not going to take them to Goodwill. I'm going to take them on my next trip. I'm going to wear them one more time, and then I'm going to donate it to the housekeeper in the hotel. Because I've now lightened my load so that I have room in my suitcase to bring back all those wonderful goodies that I'm sure to buy, and I won't have to ship them home. I won't have to buy a second suitcase to put them in and pay another $40 to get that suitcase back home. Throwaway clothes. It's a wonderful, wonderful idea that I've been using since the 1970s, and I do advocate it, although most people laugh when they hear me talk about it.
This advice that you gave me, from your knowledge, is it applicable in the opposite way? Let's say I have family members from other countries that I'd like to come here. Are you familiar with like the reverse of what you were telling me?
Actually, I'm really glad you asked that question because starting on the 26th of January, anyone coming into the United States by air, regardless of where they're flying from, will need to present a COVID test showing negative results taken within 72 hours of their arrival. This is brand new. This has just come out this week.
Okay.
So you can see how the situation is so fluid. It's changing on a daily basis.
Okay. And as people prepare for potentially booking vacations, I believe of all of this advice you gave, it might be overwhelming to people. And I think the point is talk to a travel agent.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. We're here to help you navigate these waters because we know there's a lot of water to be navigated. And I've been doing this since the 1980s. So, and most of us have. Most of us are around, have been here for quite some time, being travel agents and helping people through all kinds of crises. So your best resource is a knowledgeable travel agent. I can absolutely say that with 100%